Welcome, Outlaws fans, to episode 89 of the Middle-Aged Outlaws podcast. We're back. We've had a small break since our wild Survivor Series episodes, but we're back and ready to get back into our new generation journey, as it were. And today we're going to be talking all things Royal Rumble 1994. Adam, how on earth are you doing?
Yeah, doing okay, thank you. A whole lot better after watching the Rumble. What about you?
A whole lot better after watching it. I was very excited for this Rumble. Very excited. 12-year-old I would have been. And I think that this whole Undertaker stuff, things in your mind are a lot bigger, aren't they, from when you're a kid compared to when you're an adult. I had this vision of just 600 heels trying to keep the Undertaker down.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed it, yes. This
Nice.
might be one of the worst actual Royal Rumble matches there's ever been, perhaps.
Yeah, it's not... You don't look back at it and think, I will rewatch this on a regular basis. But I was quite entertained watching it.
Good, I'm glad. Mostly by the great Kabuki, I imagine.
Well, of course. Yeah.
Do you know, I was thinking, is this the Rumble where the guy jumps from the top rope to the outside? And then I saw the great Kabuki, I was like, it definitely is. But what was that, like 96, 97? Somebody does that, don't they?
Yeah.
This is a good pay-per-view. I'm sure we'll have fun talking about it. Last time we chatted, we spoke Survivor Series 93, which was good fun.
Yeah.
We've jumped forward a little bit in time, but most of our storylines that we were following have come with us. So we've got Bret and Owen. We had the bust up at Survivor Series 93. We had some breadcrumbs of Undertaker and Yokozuna starting round about then. We had Jeff Jarrett being introduced into the fray. We had Crush and Macho Man Randy Savage in the longest term booking there's ever been for a mid-carder such as Crush.
Yeah.
We had bits and pieces between IRS and Razor Ramon. We had Tatanka and Ludwig Borga were sort of involved with each other. Doink and Bam Bam Bigelow. There was, for a sort of supposed poor time in WWF, there was some interest to us. There was some interesting storylines on the go, and we were enjoying working our way through the Raws, weren't we?
Yeah, I think we'd enjoyed maybe a lot more now looking back at the Crush and Savage stuff, because we only really knew of the WrestleMania match, I think.
Yeah.
And seeing some of the like pull apart brawls and things like that's been pretty well done, and the sort of subtlety at the start of the story of just, Crush's phone going dead when Savage spoke and things like that. I've liked the way they've done that.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. So let's recap our go home Raw, and then we'll get into the pay-per-view. One thing that we should very quickly, before we talk about this Raw, one thing we should talk about is the tag team titles. I had to check with you because I was very confused as to what was going on. So when we last left it, I think were the Quebecers the tag team champions at that point? They were, Yeah. And Jacques was involved in the sort of main event, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But Pierre was injured.
Yeah.
So the Quebecers are tag team champions. They faced Marty Jannetty and the 1-2-3 Kid, who seem to have made some sort of alliance on the Raw before the one that we've just recently watched. And they lost the tag team titles to Marty and the Kid.
Yep.
And so from what I've read, the Steiners have got one foot out the door, and this is Vince's way of sort of putting something in place for somebody that could replace them.
Mm-hmm.
So the Quebecers lost that. My memory starts to question what's going on here, because I know that both Hearts are facing the Quebecers for the titles.
I was watching the Raw, like where the title change happened, and I was thinking, well, obviously that's not going to happen. Of course this is going to be a Quebecers win, because we know it's Bret and Owen against the Quebecers at the Rumble. But they got me.
I see. Yeah. And then did they tell you on the Raw, or did they tell you on the pay-per-view?
so you're watching the Raw, and they talk about the fact that there's another event going on live at the same time, and I think it's Stan Lane who's on the phone.
They've got Stan Lane as a sort of roving reporter.
Yeah, on what's happening in that title match, and then I think towards the end of that Raw, they confirm that the Quebecers won the title back at that event.
So bizarre.
Yeah.
So that was a Madison Square Garden house show, and it sounds like they packed those events. I think they still do that if they go to Madison Square Garden, sort of pack the card.
Yeah.
And that's the same card that they had a Royal Rumble match as the main event on, which Owen Hart won.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that till you told me.
Which is just an absolute kick right in the nuggets.
They planted the seeds quite well as you were going through it, because obviously they're talking about Bret and Owen coming back together. I think they talk about getting together over the holidays and smoothing things out and all that. And they're going to be teaming together, and they have a match secured at the Rumble against the Quebecers. And it seems, as the story goes, that even if the Quebecers aren't champions, that match is going to take place, because you've got Bret doing a promo, and he's kind of basically playing very much the babyface, saying, "Oh, it's great for Kid and Jannetty that they got this, and we'll take on the Quebecers if it's for the titles, so be it. If not, then good for those guys," type thing. And Owens kind of stood there like, well, no, I want my belt. This is fine for former world champion and multiple time tag champ Bret, but Owens looking for his first significant title in WWE.
That's this really quite surprisingly subtle storytelling that's going on.
Yeah,
they're not banging you over the head with that at all, and that is what Bret's given with the whole good for them, it's great to win titles and that's and Owen's a bit like, what about me?
Yeah.
So we see on this Raw since Survivor Series we saw Bobby Heenan being thrown out the back door by Gorilla Monsoon, and he is gone from WWF. I think he was was it to do with his neck, you'd said?
So he had a neck issue, and he'd fully intended to retire. He kind of thought he was done, certainly from doing weekly TV and stuff like that. And then he gets a phone call from Bischoff that is money and dates that he just can't turn down. It's such a limited work schedule in comparison. And the pay was, I think, significant. It was big. So yeah, I think when he was booted out of WWE building on that night by Gorilla Monsoon, I think he did think that was it. Maybe go back and call a pay-per-view or something like that. But I think he thought that was it. But they pulled him back in.
Pulled him right back. So in between times, WWF on Raw have had Vince anchoring the commentary with various different people along with them. They have Cornette the first week, and I'm like, oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
Serve me this right up on a plate. But then the following week it's like Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
They have loads of different people. They don't have anyone full time in next to Vince. And on the Go Home Raw, it's Vince and Crush. Please never ever put that in my ear holes again. Every second word he says is brother. It's fine for your character and if you're cutting a promo, Crush, but no when you're on commentary for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think if they had they've often done a 3-man booth. And if you bring in Crush just because you're setting something up and he's the other guy, and you can do some coherent storytelling in the moments he's not just saying his one word, that's okay. But it was tough. It was tough to listen to. That one.
So as far as action's concerned, there's not a lot to report back on. There's a lot of jobbers and job matches going on. You mentioned Owen Hart. He has Bret sort of by his side at ringside. He wins a match, and this gives them the opportunity to cut that promo that you were talking about there. We see Tatanka in action against IRS, I think. Is it? No.
Tatanka's a jobber. I've not said who it is.
It's Macho Man versus IRS.
Yeah, it's Macho Man IRS.
As their kind of main event, but that just is a bit of a damp squib where Crush decides to chuck the headset to this. They could have had that the first match. We'd be laughing. But the main thing for me that came out of this episode of Raw was the segment between Paul Bearer and Mr. Fuji and Yokozuna. And we just get Yokozuna selling how terrified he is of caskets and The Undertaker in general.
Yeah.
It's like first-class acting
he
for
sells
Yokozuna.
it brilliantly. Like, they played on it at Survivor Series where the look on his face was one of fear, Yokozuna, and they have taken that and they have ran with it. And I quite like, because they've also got a story going on here about how maybe Yokozuna and Fuji aren't very happy with Cornette because he's missed it getting put in the contract agreement that it's going to be a casket match. And then I think when they come out here, there is no Cornette.
Cornette's not there, and they say that he's away doing something somewhere, but they're not very clear about it.
But I was really impressed by Yokozuna, just looking absolutely terrified. I thought he did it brilliantly.
They do this thing where Bearer comes out with a huge big double wide casket that Undertaker's made for Yokozuna, and Yokozuna's looking about trying to find where Undertaker is, and he keeps just putting his hand up to signify where's the tall guy.
Yeah,
and it's just he's kind of played like a Silent Bob type character. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's good. Like he comes across at times almost like childlike, and he does it so well. I was really impressed.
It's brilliant. So I think that kind of summarises that. Raw, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
They do the whole thing after that crush interference where like loads of guys pile into the ring to signify that the Royal Rumble will be the next pay-per-view, and this is what it'll be like. 30 men for themselves.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, Royal Rumble 1994, Providence, Rhode Island. We have Vince McMahon, of course, anchoring us on commentary, and he seems to be of the opinion that he'll just be doing commentary on his own. And then, just as the pay-per-view starts, Vince is introducing, and Ted DiBiase, who has apparently had only just retired from in-ring competition at the age of 40.
I've always been a man that's looked a wee bit older than I am, but
40. AJ Styles is like, current AJ Styles is like 6 years older or something than like that Ted DiBiase. It's just crazy.
Yeah. See, to be fair, he kind of always looked the same age, didn't he? Doesn't look much older here than he did when he was trying to buy the title off Andre and stuff like that.
Nah. So he'd been wrestling in Japan or something like that, apparently. But he was known to have like back problems or something like that, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think there was also, I remember hearing a story being told where he'd had some indiscretions and he wanted to try and keep his family together, and part of it was also not being on the road all the time. So, yeah.
What was his son called again? Was it? I thought Curtis Axel was his son, but it wasn't. That's Mr.
Ted
Perfect.
DiBiase Jr.
Was you've got it. You've got it. Well done. How did you get that? So our original first match was supposed to be big Brock Lesnar, Ludwig Borga taking on Tatanka and furthering their rivalry that they'd had going on, but Ludwig Borga injured his ankle on the Madison Square Garden card that we were talking about earlier, and I don't think we see him again.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you know if it was a real ankle injury? Or?
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah,
okay.
And I think they had plans for him for WrestleMania 10, but never came back on pay-per-view. So we do Tatanka versus Bam Bam Bigelow with his main squeeze, Luna Vachon, as our opening match. Were you sports entertained by our opener, Adam?
I always like Bam Bam, and I'm not a Tatanka guy. I just really, really struggle watching his matches. But
what about as a child? You've never seen him wrestling as a child, obviously. I mean, as you as a child.
Just picturing this tiny wee Tatanka. I think as a child I was far more into the Tatanka character than I am watching it now. But I felt like they spent the early part of the match just kind of making Bam Bam look like an idiot, which I didn't really enjoy. I like Bam Bam to be this badass character. I like him to be menacing and aggressive and all that. And I just felt like he misses a splash. He tries for a quick start, gets caught lowering his head and all that. He just looked a bit stupid in the early stages. See, there was a point. I think it's DiBiase says it in commentary that
I knew
Bam
you were
Bam
going to like this. Go on.
is a former bounty hunter.
Yes, I love that too. Have you not heard that before?
I don't think I'd ever heard it said.
So I was like, this triggered me as well, and I was like, is that part of his character, or is that a legit thing?
As I was watching it, because I didn't look it up or anything, I thought to myself, I hope it's part of the character, because he's just such a badass. He just looks like such a badass. But I do not remember that like being referenced as a thing.
Right, I'm Googling it whilst we're talking. Bigelow got started as a bounty hunter at 19 years old. When he saw an advert, he decided to take a job and went to Mexico.
So in that sense, I wonder if that line was Vince approved.
I think Vince is looking at him like, what the... I thought you were going to say, DiBiase says, there's a point where Bam Bam's got Tatanka in a bear hug, and DiBiase's saying, if I was Tatanka, I'd just give up and save myself for the Rumble. You've still got the Royal Rumble coming up. There's more at stake. You can get a shot at the title at WrestleMania. Just give up. I was like, oh yes, I like this sort of insight from the pro sort of thing going on here.
Nice. They do lean on that quite a bit, pointing out these guys will be going again. They'll be in the Rumble match. I did think so. Bam Bam had a bear hug on Tatanka for a little while, and I thought it looked like one of the worst bear hugs I'd ever seen. He seemed to be making a point of keeping his entire body weight away from him. And he was just like hugging him and standing back. It was... I couldn't see how that was going to do the optimum amount of damage.
Even Vince says that. They do the... I never like the whole... what do you call that move? Like a flying body... Like a body...
Like a crossbody?
Crossbody, flying crossbody. And they both go for it and bang it. I've never liked that. It doesn't look good. It looks really painful.
Uh-huh.
I don't think Tatanka would come off well with that one. Really.
So just before Tatanka starts doing his dancing, but I love that Bam Bam just hit him with an enziguri.
That's class. He just flops him. Absolutely smashes him in the back of the head. Bam Bam misses his moonsault. Tatanka comes off the top with a flying crossbody and gets the win. Bit of a soft win for Tatanka.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it thinking, I wonder if he was supposed to beat Borga, or if it would have been like maybe a non-finish or something like that, and then go on to the next event, or have another moment in the Rumble maybe. Because you would look and think it'd be quite... Anyone getting a win over Bam Bam should be seen as a big win. But obviously he's a fill-in, so it's harder to judge here.
So Borga beat Tatanka to what's the word? Break his streak, didn't he? His undefeated streak. So I wonder if they were giving Tatanka it back to him. Maybe they were going to do WrestleMania 10.
Yeah, sort of rubber match.
Aye.
Yeah.
What do you think about people doing the Rumble, competing and then later doing the Rumble?
I'm in two minds about it. I think it can play nicely into a storyline. I think, if you've got some unresolved issues, you can then go into the Rumble match. I like the idea of also selling your injuries or selling the fact that you've had a match that might have been a grueling match previously, but that doesn't happen an awful lot. People just sprint in like they've been absolutely fine. I think it depends on what kind of match it is. I think if somebody's like in a really high stakes match, I'd probably rather they weren't then in the Rumble. What about you?
I like it. I like the double duty. I like the thing of them having seen them and then them come back. Do you remember? I've got this image in my head of Billy Gunn. Like, was he fighting Shamrock maybe, and he was like limping down with only one boot on or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that actually, but I do like the idea of them doing double duty. I don't know how I feel about Bret and the whole limping stuff and all that, but we'll get into that. Okay, we get a really long sort of background to this whole Owen and Bret beef that's sort of went on and then been quickly squashed, and I don't know. I don't think we covered the start of
Yeah.
it, Survivor Series. And it did seem like it got squashed pretty quickly. Owen was determined he was going to face Bret in a one-on-one to prove
Yeah.
who the best wrestler was.
Uh-huh.
Bret
Yeah.
then cuts his promo about like how important it is for him to get in the ring with anyone to prove that he is the excellence of execution, the best there is, blah, blah, blah. But under no circumstances will I fight my brother.
It's like what I liked about it, and I think we talked about this before, was I think they both play their roles really well. Like, you can see it from Owen. You can see that he's frustrated and he's annoyed, and it feels real when he's talking about it.
Yep.
And you know, you're in the same business. Your brother is currently or has very recently been at the top of that business, and you haven't been. And there's the comparisons and all that. And Owen plays a character where you would believe that he believes he's as good as or better, but like he knows nobody's taking him seriously about that. And the Bret, without saying or doing too much, looking like he is doing the little ruffle the hair, you're okay, Owen. You know, it's all going to work out for you, kid. Don't worry, that kind of thing. And you kind of, you feel like it comes across. I think this is one of my favourite storylines. I love this.
I think you're right. Like I think they play their parts brilliantly. Bret is pretty much not doing anything. It doesn't really need to do anything.
It didn't have to change anything. He's still just being Bret Hart, but the little references and the fact that he's in Owen's corner and he's going to help him, and he's it's just that. And if you're the Owen character, it makes complete sense to me that would irritate the hell out of you.
And Owen's definitely started. So they fell out. Obviously, they sort of got back together and sorted things out. But when Owen was talking on that episode of Raw, and then before this match, he's talking about himself. He's talking about it's time for the Rocket, Owen Hart. A lot of that sort of talk, and with my brother by my side, been before. So it's almost like I'm not. Yes, we've reconciled, but I'm not really forgetting what I feel like you've done to me, Bret. But it's okay because we are together.
It was a tiny thing. There was a phrase he used in the promo, or in a promo, where he said something like "the Rocket leading the way," and I was like, "This is just you saying what you want this dynamic to now be," and Bret probably isn't taking that seriously, because he says leading the way and says something like "my brother Bret behind me" or something like that, and you're like, yeah, and it's little, and if what happens didn't happen, you would never think twice about it. The way he said it.
That's very true. It's good. I think Owen proper shines within it, and we'll get to the end of it. But how many times have we seen somebody turn heel and then them like stare at the hard camera with this, sort of villainous look, and it's like, oh, he's been thinking about, he's been going to do this for 20 weeks sort of thing. Whereas with Owen, it's like completely organic, and like, I'm so fed up. Frustration. So anyway, we'll get to that at the end. So yeah, that takes us into the match. Quebecers, tag team champions, taking on Owen and Bret. DiBiase's doing a great sort of running dialogue of the Quebecers being a unit versus the Harts being singles, and having had their previous issues, which I liked.
I loved the look on the Quebecers' faces when they come out with their titles. They're so smug and arrogant, and the boos are raining down on them, and they are loving it. They're absolutely loving it.
They're like displaying the titles, aren't they? I thought, so by the end of this match, I thought Jacques especially looked completely gassed, because it seemed like Owen and Bret were just getting in the ring and doing moves to them over and over and over, like really fast.
Yeah, it's like it plays well into the story, and it's almost like Bret goes in, does his things, and Owen's like, well, I can outdo that, and I'm going to go in and do my stuff, and you get I think it's quite early on in the match, Jacques is trying to like curry some favour with Owen. Like he's giving him a thumbs up and Bret a thumbs down and all that kind of thing. He's just trying to play on any little thing that might be there, which I liked as well.
I like that as well. And again, that thing of like getting in and I can do this, and then like there's a few times where Bret tries to take or does sort of takes both guys apart himself, whilst Owens. It's no over the top. Look at me, I'm the best. He's just doing it.
Yeah.
It's really good, really good. Did you enjoy the match?
I did, and you've got the story going through it, which is great and very invested in. I thought it was like an exhibition for Bret and Owen at times, just doing all their moves. The Quebecers being, basically punching bags. They're just there to take the hits, and then the story that starts to just build itself there, where Bret. So there's a couple of times where Owen goes in and he's absolutely taking them apart, and then it's like, okay, now it's Bret's turn to go in, and you've got a heel team, which is perfect, because I think where the story really seems to ramp up is Owen's holding Jacques for Bret to strike. Bret goes off the ropes. Johnny Polo holds the ropes down, and Bret goes over the top and down to the floor, and very quickly is selling having a knee injury. And at that point in time, you've got Owen, who is a little bit annoyed, but it's all very, we need to get back in this, you need to get back in the ring and tag me in, basically. And he's going along to check on him. He's ushering away the Quebecers, but every time the ref gets involved, the Quebecers are able to double team Bret and do more damage on the knee. And what I loved, and there's nothing there, you couldn't create this, but you would know it's going to happen, is the crowd are starting to chant for Bret as he's on the ground with his knee. And knowing now what is going to happen, the sort of anger that would build, I think, in Owen with this. And I think there's a chair shot to Bret's knee, and Owen, he's still trying to protect him. But watching this in hindsight now, you can be like, is he trying to protect his brother, or is he trying to protect his title opportunity here? But he doesn't have to do anything to make you sort of question that because of everything that's gone before.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. There absolutely no mercy from both Mounties. They're going to town on that knee. They get the opportunity. I think they use Johnny Polo's polo stick on his knee a few times. And I thought Tim White was going to count out Bret. I couldn't remember how this ended, so I thought Tim White, he's absolutely no mercy. Like, he's not.
I think it's one of the worst refereeing performances I've ever seen in my life. And I think Tim White may actually be responsible for everything that's going to happen beyond now. Because he could have called the match off. He could have said, this participant is in no condition to defend himself anymore. He could have counted him out. But all the while, the chance, it's the hope that kills you, that the chance is still there for Owen to win his belt, that he fully believes he should be winning. I think it builds more and more up in Owen. And there's a moment where, again, you're watching this kind of knowing what's going to happen, but Owen just rolls Bret back in the ring. And watching it now, I'm thinking, would you do that?
He's like throwing him to the wolves.
Yeah.
100%. Yep, there you go.
But you could also, I think to yourself, that's probably what Bret would want him to do. He's not a quitter. He's the guy that'll never give up. But he can't stand once he's back in there. And we're gonna, I think, did they put a Boston Crab on him?
Single leg crab.
I thought it was DiBiase is jumping all over Bret at this point for not making the tag, and I'm like, right, we'll get to that, but right now he can't walk. So it's not the easiest for him to get there and make the tag. We will get to a moment where he should make the tag, which is where we maybe look at things in a slightly different way.
So I expected to come into this, and I expected you to be full Owen, right? So I was watching it from the point of view of Bret, because I love Bret. So I was thinking, I'm going to come in here and defend Bret to the hilt, and you're going to be all for Owen. Right, so just keep in mind that is the lens that I was trying to watch this through, right? So the Quebecers go for their finish. After this really made me laugh. So Jacques holds out Bret's leg as if to say to Pierre, leg drop him on his leg. And Bret's lying face down, and Pierre just leg drops right on his head, and Jacques kind of looking at him like, what? Then he tags him in. They go for their finish, which is that kind of like one's up on the top rope, and he pulls him over, the somersault onto Bret, but Bret rolls, right? Now make the tag.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to do anything except for use your hands to pull yourself over and tag.
You've just shown you're capable of rolling. You could probably roll along to your own corner.
He tries to put the sharpshooter on one of them. Why does he do that?
Oh, right. Because he's an egomaniac.
I have no reason. The only reason could be that he's so hurt that he's not in his right mind and he's forgotten that he's in a tag team match.
You found your get out for Bret.
But Owen's shouting at him.
Bret's a heel.
He's the heel in this story.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, I'm trying to think who could. It's like a Kurt Angle thing or something like that, like a egomaniac that only cares about himself sort of thing.
What in this moment it feels like he is not acknowledging is that this is the biggest opportunity of Owen's life.
That's exactly one of the main points, is that he's won the tag team titles multiple times.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Oh, of course it matters to him because he's Bret Hart and all that, but the stakes aren't as high as they are for his brother, who wants to make a stamp on with his career. So, Bret puts on the sharpshooter. Does he just sort of crumple trying to put it on?
He drops to the mat, yeah.
And it's at this point that Andre the Giant's best mate decides to just go, nah.
Could have ended it ages ago, but I'll do it now.
So Tim White rings for the bell, and even Howard Finkel's a bit questioning. The referee has decided to end the match.
Very judgmental, this thing.
So Owen is... the Quebecers get their belts. That is a massive escape for the Quebecers.
Delighted for them, yeah.
And Owen is just walking around the ring, booting the ropes. As you would be, he's raging.
Yeah. He's because he's furious with the ref, and he's having a bit of a tantrum. But he goes really quickly from looking like he might have some concern for Bret to being absolutely furious with him. It's like in that moment he just snapped.
I wonder if this is totally besides the point of what we're talking about. But do you remember when the Rockers are in a match and one of them is out on the floor for the whole match?
Yes, yeah.
I can't remember which one it is.
It's Sean, I'm sure.
Is it? I'm going to go back and find out if that was Tim White refereeing. Then I'm going to send him a strongly worded.
We have to question who's actually, picking the referees for matches. Like, if somebody can do this more than once.
Disgusting. Well, Tim White's... I don't think Tim White's with us anymore, is he?
No.
I'll send it to Triple H. I'll send him a tweet. So, what does Owen do, Adam? Does he kick his leg out of his leg?
Yes. Brilliant. So Owen looks to be ready to help support Bret, who can't really put on his weight on his own leg, and then Owen just savagely kicks the injured leg, and that is Bret back down on the mat. There's a fantastic... I didn't enjoy his commentary, his colour work here that much, but there's a fantastic laugh by DiBiase when it happened. And I was thinking, Bobby Heenan's smiling watching that. He's enjoying DiBiase going just full heel and laughing at that. Now, from here, Owen's going to leave the ring. and he is shouting and screaming. But what he's saying makes a whole lot of sense.
Yes. This is what I'm talking about. This about the sort of villainous thing. It's not a villainous thing. It's who is it? It's, like in the recent stuff, like Drew McIntyre has the whole thing where like I'm not a heel just because you cheer for Jey Uso now doesn't mean that he didn't screw me with the bloodline so long ago. It's the same with Owen. It's 100% legitimate. Why didn't he tag me? That's what he's saying. You're so selfish.
Yeah.
All he cares about is himself.
I wrote some notes and I've clearly I've decided Bret is the heel 100% here. I've got some WWF officials are down trying to help selfish Bret. Ray Rougeau is down wanting to speak to Bret, and I'm thinking, right, okay, Bret's done wrong, but is this the time to be getting a chat with Bret?
I was questioning the appropriateness of sending another French Canadian to try and speak to him.
I think he's directly related to Jacques.
Yep, there you go.
They immediately, though, and again, this puts me even more with Owen. The immediate speculation is Bret might not make the Rumble match. Like, Owen's just lost out on his biggest opportunity here. He's lost out on the tag titles because of Bret, and all you're talking about is Bret.
The golden child and the black sheep.
Yeah. And
so we have Todd Pettengill backstage with Owen. Now, if Owen had been this dastardly heel, he would have just battered Todd Pettengill, and we would all been happy. But unfortunately, he cuts a promo instead. Bret, you're too selfish. Your ego's too big. You took away my shot. I've just wrote here, what a promo. That is a promo.
I loved it. I had the little laugh that you always have when you hear that's why I kicked your leg out of your leg. Yeah, but apart from that, I thought he was brilliant. It's even the way his voice is going because he sounds emotional, and his voice, like when he says something like "your ego is too big," and his voice goes really high pitched, and it is like he's speaking from a really emotional place. I thought he did it brilliantly.
Do you know what I was thinking after this? I was thinking, why could they not done this with Owen beyond any feud just with his brother?
Yeah. It's a shame. I think what it did, though, for me, I think as a youngster, I'm not sure if I saw Owen at that level, like at the top level. But watching this, I do. Like, I think he's got it. I think he's in this character. He's delivering good promos. He obviously can work really well in the ring. He's going to get his run with Bret. But yeah, I think adult me looks and sees what I think was a top tier guy.
I just always think it feels like an asterisk. I've always thought that when it comes to sort of, if it's like brother versus brother and one's elevated.
Yeah.
And it kind of just feels like it wouldn't work if part A of the storyline wasn't there. So replace Bret with Yokozuna, or I don't know.
Yeah, it would be. I think if you had him, say he won the title, he had at least one main event pay-per-view opportunity against Bret. I think you probably would then look for him to continue with the same type of character. It wouldn't be as easy because you would have to somewhere find that reason. For whoever the next opponent was.
He'd need to be like a victim of circumstances sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's workable though. But it's world class. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's a shame because you're right, like I kicked your leg out, your leg does sort of overshadow it, certainly. But it's class. It's really, really good. And it lends itself to how confused and pissed off I was when it gets dumped at the Rumble so early on and so meaninglessly.
It's just played off as just another elimination.
Just another guy. Aye, we'll get to it. Our next match is for the Intercontinental title. It's the champion Razor Ramon versus IRS. This confirms that he has no music.
Yes. Yes, it did. It feels like we've been building towards Razor and IRS for a while. Like, they've kind of always been in each other's worlds without really opposing each other.
They didn't IRS like steal his gold chains or something like that.
Yeah. Had them in that
In his
briefcase of his. Yeah.
Here's a little treat. We get JR and Gorilla Monsoon on commentary.
Yeah. It's a shame this is so hard because what we just got was brilliant. And I like Razor Ramon. The crowd are still, every time we see him, they're massively there for Razor Ramon.
Oh, too right.
But it just felt for me as I was watching it like it was such a come down from what just happened, because I'm not sure what could have kept you at that sort of high.
Well, I was ready to hate this.
Oh.
And I've got serious issues with IRS. I think as we were watching Raw, we're just like, I don't want to see him. I think in part of Money Inc. is fine. But by the end of this, I was like, oh my God, what a sympathetic babyface the IRS is. He gets completely fucked in this match.
He does. That's true. Because we've got the fans typically getting on Irwin's case by bullying him by chanting his name really slowly at him. But then he seems to go down a route of trying to make Razor Ramon lose his cool quite early on in the match, which I thought the way that Razor is usually portrayed, I thought was quite an interesting tactic. I think DiBiase talks it through as he's doing it, which is he'll get him off his game, he'll get him to make a mistake and things like that.
I started writing down, JR is desperate to list the amateur background of Mike Rotunda, and just when I wrote it, he started talking about it.
Brilliant.
I was quite annoyed at the fact that Gorilla Monsoon talked about PJ Walker being a relative unknown.
Oh.
I mean, that's blasphemy.
He's been... Well, I mean, even at this stage, he's been all over the TV. He's been everywhere.
They were mentioning it because he beat IRS, and they were saying, he's been upset. But that's a future X Factor member right there.
Yeah.
And whatever the group was, he was in an ECW with... What were they called again? The group that... Do you remember? With Shane... What do you call him? For God's sake. I'm out of practice here. The franchise, Shane... Douglas and Bam Bam and Candido and Just Incredible. That was a group, was it not? Am I making that up?
What were they called? They were kind of the main thing for a while.
They were. Yeah.
Can't remember.
Come back to us. And that's... is that like Gorilla's son or something like that? It's the referee,
The referee, yeah. It's a sad story, that one.
Oh, is it?
I think he died really young in a car crash.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's it? Morello or something like that?
Yeah. Can't remember the first name.
Jerry? No. Definitely not Tom.
No. That's a different guy.
Yeah. So, the conversation we just had about Owen, I started having with myself watching this about Razor Ramon.
Okay.
And Scott Hall as well. I think I always forget how massive he is.
Oh, yeah.
I should have looked up to see how tall he was, but he's huge.
You get, like, I think this is one where as a kid, I always thought, your guys like Bulldog or Warlord or that were the ones that had the incredible physiques. But looking now, Scott Hall's physique is basically perfect.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's funny, you don't... Do you think when you're young, you're like, oh, that guy's a mid-carder? You didn't really think, Razor Ramon's an Intercontinental Champion. He's never going to break through that glass ceiling, though.
Yeah, no, I don't think I would have thought about how old am I here? 13, maybe? Yeah, probably wouldn't have crossed my mind.
It just doesn't it? You just like, oh, that guy's cool. You're like, yeah, I'm going to... I don't know.
I try to think
Christopher Walken there. Yeah.
See when like you had the wrestling figures and all that, and you would have a belt, and you would maybe play through a tournament or something and make your decision about who was going to be your world champion. I'm trying to think if I ever put the big belt on Razor Ramon.
Oh, I hope so.
Figure. I'm not sure I did.
Even in the Hasbro world, he's been overlooked. So aye. So this Joey Morello, isn't it?
That's it.
The referee
Yeah.
gets squashed in the corner, and IRS tries to take advantage by grabbing his briefcase. He's going to hit Razor with it. He's going to give him a wee dunt with it, right? To get a wee bit of an advantage. Razor takes it off him and fucking waffles IRS over the head with it. There's absolutely no need for it. He then takes him, but the referee is completely out. Razor takes him up to the top turnbuckle and sort of side suplexes him right off the top. He goes to cover him again. Referee's still buggered. He goes for the Razor's edge, but you can tell it's got a sort of funny angle where the aisles and the behind where we're looking at them, so you can see that somebody's run out because the crowd are going mad, but you can't see who it was. And I was like, who can it possibly be? Did you know it was Michaels?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Michaels runs in. Tell me about this, Adam. In kayfabe, right? Michaels runs in and hits Razor with his Intercontinental title, drops it, and runs away.
Yeah. That's an odd choice, isn't it? I mean, he's been making a massive deal out of the fact that he's the real Intercontinental Champion. He still has his belt because nobody's beat him. And he just leaves it. Just leaves it behind.
I'm not having that.
It's an odd choice.
This is enough for IRS to pin Razor Ramon and get the win. I mean, fair. It's a fair win. Scott Hall smashed him over the head with his briefcase. He got hit with the title.
I only really take issue with one of your arguments, which was that IRS was just going to give Razor a little dunt.
Just a wee dunt. That's what it looked like. JR's already told you Mike Rotunda was an amateur athlete. He's not trying to take anyone's head off here. That little bitch Hebner comes out, starts getting involved in things. Why? Again, inconsistent officiating. Because they don't interject in any other times. Well, they do sometimes, but inconsistently.
The bit that I thought was really unfair, because Razor... IRS he's like posing with his belt, isn't he? He's on the turnbuckle. And Razor's just going to lift him off the turnbuckle and hit him with the Razor's edge.
Yep.
Now, surely, if you're restarting the match, both men to your corners, everyone ready, go. But
there you go.
He never got a chance to get himself set.
100% agree. I thought that was cheap from Razor Ramon. And I was like, is there new rules for the Intercontinental title? We've got 24/7 hardcore rules going on here. So
I do have at the end of my notes for this match, I'm no fan of Irwin, but I think he was just screwed.
He looks very confused as well. He sells it pretty well. But the ref is so fast to drop down and start counting.
Oh, he couldn't wait to make that cover. Yeah.
100%. So we've got a good guy stable that we're building here. IRS, Owen Hart, the Mounties, the Quebecers, Johnny Polo. But what an emotional roller coaster. I literally went into this saying I really hope that this is a squash. And I've come out of it thinking, IRS got completely screwed. Fuck Shawn Michaels and fuck Razor Ramon. Fuck them all. But why did Michaels leave his belt? That's the question.
Yeah.
He also disrespects the title later on where he's talking about winning the Rumble and he throws the IC title out of the picture.
He does. Yep. Yeah.
Are we surprised? Okay. Did you take notes on the stuff about the Undertaker saying Merry Christmas? Ho, ho, ho.
It wasn't for me. That's not what I want from my Undertakers. Like I always think I think through this era didn't really want him to speak at all. I'm happy for Paul Bearer to do the speaking, Undertaker to remain just this ominous presence guy. And when they do things like that, I'm like, I get it. He's a babyface just now, but don't take that sort of mysterious, eerie side away by having him fucking say ho ho ho.
Happy New Year. Yokozuna. I was thinking, we've spoke before about Triple H 100% biting Shane. You've just said it. what's his name?
Douglas.
Shane Douglas's like look
Yeah.
for the game, and I think he's maybe stole the Undertaker's cadence as well, because he's given it all. What's he saying? I think Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I am the game. I think he stole that from him too. So that takes us to our casket match. Yokozuna the champion versus the Undertaker. A great rivalry that, like, regardless of the Merry Christmases and Happy New Years, like I feel like they've built this rivalry really well.
And it's not easy, I think, when you've got a champion like Yokozuna. He's massive, and they have kind of positioned him as unbeatable for a lot of his run. And you're looking, thinking, well, who is a real legitimate challenger? And obviously Undertaker's massive, and he's got that aura about him. But then you throw in how shit scared Yokozuna is playing of him and of caskets. I thought it was a good story, and I thought that they told it well. I thought Yokozuna's performance through it all was really good, and I think finding just there was underrated storytelling in this era.
Too right, 100%.
Yeah.
I've scaled Yokozuna up into my top 5 wrestlers of all time after this.
Nice.
I'm promoting him. I love him.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's so good. It's
like
such a shame.
For someone who didn't speak, it's just, it gets his character over brilliantly.
Yeah, it's all in the face, and I appreciate that far more as an older guy, as a middle-aged outlaw, than I did when I was a young guy. How much of it is in the face, in the story you tell with your face. He also, he's got the size, but for that while where he had the agility, he's a great worker. It's such a shame what happened with him.
100%. When Undertaker comes out here, by the way, Cornette looks amazing. He's got like all these like glittery things. He's got 2 glittery badminton rackets on the back of it, or tennis rackets on the back. His jacket and all that. I love. It looks, when Undertaker's coming out, it looks like we've had the sort of tease of Undertaker being inside the casket on Raw, and when Paul Bearer's coming out and Undertaker's music hits, you assume the same because you can't see the Undertaker, and then you can maybe about as Paul Bearer's halfway down the aisle, you can just see the sort of shadow behind him. I love that.
Yeah,
I love how he was in the dark. It's that creeping, ominous thing that you were talking about there, the character.
Yeah.
And like in this day and age, you would never have that because there'd be so many lights and fireworks and whatever. It was really cool the way they did that. First thing I need to ask you about. So Yokozuna's doing the whole selling of being, his eyes are darting about and he's terrified and all that. Vince says Yokozuna could turn into a 600-pound mountain of jellyfish.
Yep.
What does that? What does that mean? Jelly? Because he's like he's scared. Jellyfish? Nah. They end up on the outside really early, and they trade a couple of absolutely brutal chair shots.
Yep.
I bet you were cringing at those.
I was. I'm not a fan of them, and I always look, like when I see them, I look to see if the guy got his hand up to protect it a bit. And sometimes you see that they do, and sometimes nowhere near. I think in this, Yoko maybe got his hand up for his. I don't think Taker even tried to get his up.
He was bent. Yokozuna threw the salt in his eyes, so he was bent over, and he waffled him over the back of the head. Brutal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh.
I love the story of, doesn't matter what Yokozuna does to Undertaker, the urn is there to rise him up. So he hits this absolutely beautiful belly to belly where he hooks both the arms, and that would squash a sort of normal man, and it looks like it squashed Undertaker, but he sits up, and this is where Yokozuna's selling the like, what the fuck sort of look at his face.
I love there were years later that I hated it, but in this era, I loved the setup. It's he is that character, and he's your horror film character that won't die. And I thought that the pairing of that with Yokozuna's expressions was perfect, absolutely brilliant.
Undertaker hits a choke slam on Yokozuna and rolls him towards the casket. That looks like all she's wrote at this point. And I was just thinking to myself, at what point are we going to start getting interference? And Crush appeared behind Undertaker and gives him a few punches before they can close the lid. At this point in time, it's probably the best thing to do is just to start listing the heels that come out.
Oh, so we've got, I think that 2 and 3 were Kabuki and Tenryu, I think.
Yep.
And
so
then Bam Bam?
The story with Kabuki and Tenryu is that Mr. Fuji has employed them or paid them to basically be assassins to to what? Take out Luger, is it?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah. And then obviously we bit of work on the side here.
Yep.
And I think all the while that this is starting to happen, DiBiase's like doing his laugh and saying, "I knew Fuji would have a plan." As more and more of them come down. So I think we've got Bam Bam after that, and then is that when Fuji takes the urn from Paul Bearer? I think.
Yep.
And Yoko, he's still in the casket, but then he starts climbing out of it. And does Paul Bearer like just boot Fuji to get the urn back?
So Cornette, you can see like a few of them assaulting Undertaker in the corner of your screen. Cornette's like nudging Fuji and they're like having a great time, proper laughing. And Paul Bearer comes around and just fucking leathers Fuji between the legs, takes the arm back off him.
Nice.
We get head shrinkers coming out. We get Diesel. I didn't see how Diesel fit into this.
Yeah, I found Diesel odd.
Like Jeff Jarrett, I get, because he's just a smarmy wee git.
Yeah, and Adam Bomb, you know, he's out there with what's his name? Is it Harvey Wiggleman? And you would believe that, you know, Fuji would go to these other, because it's always the heels that had the managers, and go to the other managers and be like, if I give you this, your guys come out and help whenever needed.
But Diesel's obviously affiliated with Michaels, and it felt he was the only one that I felt like, and that's a bit odd.
Yeah.
They are just going to town Taker, but he keeps fighting back, but not in a Johnny Gargano fighting from underneath type of way. Like he gets up and he's wrecking them all.
Yeah.
And Bearer's reviving him, sort of thing, with the urn every now and again, which is it's class.
Yeah, and I kind of thought this will go one of two ways. I was quite excited to watch it, but I thought, oh no, what if it's just terrible?
Really okay.
Yeah, but I enjoyed this. Like properly, you know, just take yourself out of reality and watch it, and it was entertaining.
So Yoko gets the urn. He just sort of fucking throws Bearer to the floor and takes the urn off us. He nails Taker with it and throws it to the floor, and it starts spewing green smoke, mist type stuff. Quite impressive. No idea how they could have possibly done that. It's pretty class.
Yeah, it was good.
It's at this point that like the head shrinkers start diving off the top rope onto Undertaker. Bam Bam does a diving headbutt. It's just like spamming finishers on him.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing that really stops him in his tracks. Now, I think the urn being taken off Paul Bearer stops him probably.
Yeah.
So they roll him to the edge of the ring, and then Yokozuna just sort of like nudges him.
Quite gently kicks it. Like, I don't want to touch this. Just get it away from me.
That's what it's like. And one little weird, it's just like a little character wrinkle. They put Undertaker in the casket and close the lid, and then Bam Bam like slides on top of it.
Yeah.
Like a slithering, a weird lizard, and I just like it.
That's pretty funny. The other thing I found funny, because the heels are all walking the casket up the ramp, and Jeff Jarrett is celebrating like he just won the world title.
Hey, is he? Keeps like giving Yokozuna a thumbs up, like we're all in this together, sort of thing. I thought Kevin Nash looked like he was having some serious issues getting the casket moving. It was like he was complaining about it. So they're wheeling it up the aisle, and the green mist starts coming out from underneath the coffin. Undertaker's music hits, and we get some sort of Frankenstein type lightning and all this sort of stuff, and just transformed to a 12-year-old boy.
So we started getting the same green smoke coming out from the casket, and the heels are all like backing off, like, whoa, what's
going on here?
Awesome.
We see also on the big screen we get Taker lying in the casket. I love that's iconic when he turns and faces the camera
right
with his
the
eyes.
Third bong, I think it is. Yeah,
I didn't write down what he all said, but it's like Bray Wyatt-esque scripture type stuff that he's saying.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit where it's soon all mankind will witness the rebirth of the Undertaker, and that he will not rest in peace.
And he rises to the
Yep.
DiBiase sells it well, because DiBiase is just a bit like, I can't really understand what I'm saying, but it's just Vince's bombastic. Yeah. It's just quite annoying.
Yeah.
I read two different things. I read that it was Marty Jannetty that was being risen up through the rafters.
Okay.
I also read that Marty Jannetty wrote on Facebook that it was definitely not him, which makes me think that it probably was him.
Yeah. He's not going to know.
Nah, but it's quite funny to think. I wonder where Undertaker... Do you think he was still inside the casket?
Yeah,
it's with the mist coming out, the smoke coming out the bottom of it.
Yeah, I know sometimes they have, like, potentially, I couldn't see where they could have done it here, but like an area where somebody can go climb out of the bottom.
Trapdoor type thing.
Yeah, but I don't know if that would have happened there or not.
The graphic stuff is obviously, there's like a graphic of him like rising to heaven sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I think it all just, like, obviously it doesn't seem realistic, but it holds up though.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know if it was just what I needed, the kind of thing I needed to be watching. Like you said, transformed you back to a young kid just watching it, just taking it in.
I love, and it's underrated and it's undersold, the fact that Fuji got all these heels. Like, it's a casket match. There's no rules, so I'm just going to pay all these guys to come out and help Yokozuna. Yeah. It's class.
Yep. Makes perfect sense for your heel manager to do something like that.
What we should then have had was, when Undertaker returns, just him going on a sort of having a hit list of supposed
everybody that was
supposed faces that could have come out to help him.
Didn't help him. Oh,
Tatanka,
I like that.
Lex Luger, all these supposed.
Yeah, because nobody did anything.
The only person that you could possibly say has a reason not to be out there is my beloved Bret Hart, because of his leg, but the rest of them.
He made it out for the Rumble though, didn't he?
For himself, for the glory. Anyway. So that was a good match.
Good fun. I enjoyed it.
Totally different, like you say. It just transforms you back to a kid. So, Royal Rumble, the big one. Royal Rumble match is our main event. I find these hard to write notes on. I think we've spoke about this before, because you're concentrating on who's coming in. Yeah. A lot of the action is guys in corner stomping on each other or trying to throw each other over the top rope. They do the thing where like one guy is just eliminating people as they come. How often do you think that they've done that? I can think of 2 other times where that's happened, but you've probably got better modern memory than me.
We've seen we've seen Lesnar do it just a few years ago. Basically came in early and was just like dealing with the guys as they came in one at a time.
2020 maybe. McIntyre eliminate him.
Yes. And Who else have we seen do it? 'Cause it's Nash here, isn't it? Yeah.
Aye.
Diesel. Yeah.
Punk did it, didn't he? Because he's cutting promos.
Yes, he
Like,
did.
he's a straight edge Punk.
Yeah, and he's got a little bit of mic time between each one for a few. Yeah.
And I had Austin doing it as well, like 98 or 90,
Yeah, I think
maybe in
that's where
97.
the looking at the watch thing comes from. Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Okay. So we just run through?
Yeah, we'll run. It was actually quite quick as a Rumble match because we get advised that Jack Tunney has told us that we're tight for time, so the entrants are going to be more frequent than there's going to be less space between the entrants, basically.
Good job, eh? It gave him plenty of time to make up his mind at the end. So it's always interesting to see who draws number one. Scott Steiner is number one. Samu is number two.
Yeah.
I
had a little bit of regret because we wanted to see this as a tag match. And I, for some reason, as soon as I saw this, I thought, the Steiners leave really soon, don't they? That's the first thing that crossed my mind because we've wanted that tag match and we're not going to get it.
Nah.
Do you know, it was talked about Scott Steiner winning this Rumble.
What?
Yeah. So they apparently, you know, the guys that sit round the table, they had Bret, they had Luger as their clear options to win the Rumble match. And apparently Vince put out there, like, is there anything else we could do? And Bruce Pritchard had said he can't remember who came up with it, but someone suggested Scott Steiner. And the more it was talked about, apparently the more the people in the room were like, oh, wait a minute. And he said part of it might have been to try and keep them, you know, get them to stay. But they were thinking, you know, the surprise value, nobody would ever see it coming if it was Scott Steiner. And they came to the conclusion at the end, but actually, it was a good idea. It was a good thought to talk through, but we're going with either Bret or Luger here. But yeah, it was talked about specifically Scott Steiner if they were going in a different direction.
I wouldn't see much difference between Scott Steiner and Lex Luger.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Scott Steiner and Yokozuna's got. I was going to say it's got money written all over it. Definitely does not have money written all over it. I would watch it.
He probably could have lifted him, couldn't he?
I don't think he's Frankensteiner in him. The thing I liked about this is Scott and Samu are going at it, and Rick Steiner is number 3. Now, Samu looks like he's got Scott Steiner, I would say, about 85% out, and Rick Steiner just comes wandering out as if he's out on a Sunday morning going to get the papers, and he's just sorting his headgear and that, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Samu gets himself, like, hung in the rope.
Why does he do that?
Well, I was looking at it thinking, like, I think we've seen him do it before,
right.
And I'm looking at it thinking, I hate the look of that. It gives me anxiety. It freaks me out. And then, like, it seemed though to take real effort, whether he's playing for the sake of the crowd, but it seemed to take a hell of a lot of effort to untangle himself. And I'm sitting watching thinking, have I totally forgotten about death in a Rumble match? Is that going to happen here? And I was so relieved when he got himself out.
Steiners didn't look like they were very forthcoming towards like try to help him or anything, did they?
Because one of the things I wondered about was, did he mean to do it? And I think he did, because I've seen him do it in another match. But yeah, didn't look fun to me, that.
Nah, I mean, that's horrible. That's how Foley lost part of his ear, isn't
it? Yeah.
Number 4 is Kwang. I just had to look up to try and remember who Kwang was. Savio Vega.
Yeah.
What a horrible character that was.
Yeah. Terrible.
Number 5 is Owen, who comes out to Big Booze.
When he came out, were you thinking, yes, what are they going to do with him here? Because that was the first thing that went through my mind. What I couldn't think how this plays out for Owen, and I thought they must do something here.
Well, I'll be 100% had in my mind, Owen's going Iron Man. He's going to go towards the end. He's going to somehow try and eliminate Bret and, like, I don't know, fall out the ring, or like something happens that sort of is out with his control again. So it's like, I had it won and Bret got in the way again.
Yeah.
But no. They could have had Owen get eliminated and then eliminate Luger and Bret and have them both hit the deck at the same time. because of Owen.
Yeah. Oh.
Owen's in at 5, Bart Gunn's in at 6. I think I somehow missed Rick Steiner being eliminated at some point.
Okay.
Was he? He must have been.
Yeah, Owen eliminated him.
Oh, did he?
He was still selling the couldn't see because of the mist from Quang.
Right, okay. Diesel is in at 7, and Diesel goes on an absolute tear and eliminates everybody. Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah.
He just dumps Owen out.
Yeah. Like, why do you need to have Owen come in? I get the doing the thing with Diesel. I get having him go in and eliminate loads of people. Why does Owen need to be in at this stage? Could have come in way later.
100%. We get some heavy hitters later on.
Yeah.
And you could have just mixed them in there. Jesus Christ. I mean, tell Mabel have the night off. And you need Mabel in the Royal Rumble. They must have done the same spot with Mabel his whole career, where it takes everybody to get him out, eh?
Yeah.
Because I remember that Viscera spot like pretty much every Rumble.
Were you happy to see Bob Backlund?
Oh my God.
Number 8?
He's just like this sort of mental feral animal.
I loved that he tried to take Diesel's leg. He just went straight for his leg.
He almost eliminated. He nearly eliminated him. He clearly wasn't supposed to.
I was watching it and again, this is classic Backlund going on right here.
Class. I think Diesel just he pretty much Backlund goes in and almost eliminates Diesel by mistake and then gets chucked out, doesn't he?
Yeah. I had for both Billy and Bart Gunn entrances. I had massive "Who cares" vibes.
Oh man,
harsh.
That's your future brawl for all winner.
I really dislike the smoking guns were horrendous.
They were. That is just classic Vince pish, isn't it?
Yeah, awful.
Billy Gunn is in and gone, like you say. At this point, we're able to go backstage because nobody wants to watch a minute and a half of Kevin Nash snarling.
Yeah.
We see backstage footage of Lex Luger being attacked by the Great Kabuki and what was that guy called? Team
Ru.
Team Ru. And Jerry Jarrett is in amongst all those officials.
Oh, good
if you will. So next in after that is Virgil. I want to talk to you about this.
They do say he replaced Kamala.
It
sounded like he wasn't supposed to be in there. DiBiase is absolutely furious that Virgil's in this match.
He says something like that. He was much better off when he was with me or something like that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think he must give Nash a couple of sore ones.
Yeah.
With his Shane McMahon type jabs, because Nash fucking like MMA elbows him twice.
There was 2 forearms that I saw and I thought those are real.
And the way they eliminates him as well is like, I'm gonna grown man pick you up and just dump you over the rope.
It's funny to think that in just a few years there'll be, 2 of the most important members of the NWO.
Big Vincent. Yeah. And that is sort of the end of Diesel's tear, isn't it? So I think he has like 7 eliminations on the bounce, which must be in the record book somewhere. You would think.
I think maybe Kane beat it a few years later. I think.
Remember, Kane was just an absolute rumble animal for about 3 years on the bounce.
He had at least one where he did similar to what Nash has just done, but I think he has a ridiculous number of overall eliminations in Rumble matches. I think it's a crazy number.
I feel like 2001 or something like that. He was in for like an hour or something.
Yeah.
At number 11, it's the Macho Man.
Yes.
And he slows down Diesel significantly, which is good because you wouldn't have been surprised if he'd went on to just dump Savage out as well, given what Vince appears to think about Savage in the ring these days.
Yeah.
We get in Double J, Jeff Jarrett at number 12, and I think
Savage eliminates him.
Jarrett comes in, so we've got Diesel, Savage, and Jarrett, and Jarrett sort of manages to slow down Savage, he spends most of his time doing his prancing and his posing, though, doesn't he? Even DiBiase's like, this is too much. And Savage. Is it Savage that eliminates him?
Yeah.
I don't know why, at 13 I was very excited to see Crush. I think it must have been because Savage and Crush were about to like get in the ring and sort of, this would be about the first time we've seen them go,
yeah,
this is almost 1-1, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they two are straighting about each other. Savage is all over them, which is class. Amazing to think that they've managed to keep them apart, because they were in different matches at Survivor Series, weren't they?
It was just they both came down to the ring during the other one's matches, and I think both caused the elimination of the other, but yeah, separate matches.
That's right. Next in is Doink. He comes in with Dink. I think that Matt Bourne is gone by this point, isn't
that's
he?
Right. Yeah.
So, somebody Apollo or something like that. I can't remember. What his name was. But Crush and Diesel seem to have come to some sort of agreement that they're going to get rid of Savage, which they do. So that leaves us with Crush, Diesel, and Doink. And then at number 15 is Bam Bam. I liked that we've got the history with Bam Bam and Doink and Dink and all that. And Diesel and Crush just open the ropes for Bam Bam and let him in. He's yours. Have a go.
Yeah. I seem to see in my notes, I never just write Luna. I always just write his main squeeze, Luna.
Beautiful. I love the way Finkel says it. His main squeeze. What do we get? Who?
Bam Bam absolutely launches Doink out of the ring.
I thought the way that he's thrown him at the ring, he was going to land on somebody, but that's what you're accustomed to seeing.
Yep. Nope. And then I think Crush and Diesel immediately try and eliminate Bam Bam after helping him into the ring and all that.
Dastardly.
Oh, and then it's Mabel. Oh.
The crowd giving it whoop. Whoop, there it is. I bet you were raging.
I hate it.
Who annoys you more, Mabel?
It's probably that little bastard with a microphone.
Wow. Okay. So we have Mabel, Bam Bam, Diesel, and Crush. 4 big. This Rumble is like heel central.
Yeah.
Did you find that?
Hell of a lot. Yeah.
Mabel. Well, Mabel's a face act. Well, no.
Yeah, well, in the eyes of some.
He's a heel in our eyes. He squashes each man in the corners, then rev up your engines because here comes Sparky Plug.
This
was his first televised match.
Oh, he's there in place of the 1, 2, 3 kid.
That's right. Yes. Brilliant. He comes in. What was his gimmick? He was like a NASCAR driver. Or something like that. Unbelievable. Here comes Sean. He's in next to 18. He's in a funny position, isn't he? Well, he's obviously Intercontinental Champion, but it reminded me of, what Rumble would it have been? 98 maybe, where like The Rock was Intercontinental Champion, but he makes it to the end.
Yeah. And
you get the feeling that he's destined for more, and you kind of feel that about Michaels in this as well.
Yeah. He's wanting to quite quickly form the alliance with Diesel because he clearly wants no part of going up against him. And then just after the handshake, everyone else in the ring goes after Diesel, and Diesel gets eliminated by the group. But there's sort of, you don't really see it, but I think Vince is telling the story that Michaels helped just push Diesel over the edge there, which I'm not sure made that much sense for Michaels. I think he would want the big man alongside him for, at least getting nearer the end than this.
That's true. Although Diesel he was on a bit of a tear. He was. It did seem like he was interested in. he wasn't interested in an alliance with Michaels. By the way, he was snarling at him.
He did eventually shake his hand, and he's a man of honour. Is Diesel?
Yeah. Okay. And next was Mo. And when they come out as a pairing, it's like Mo and Mabel. But if your name is just Mo, it's just a bit like, nah.
Introducing Mo.
Mo. And then somebody's crazy auntie comes running out. But no, it's Greg Valentine.
Amazing.
The crowd popped for him. It must be a surprise entrance. Not having to go to very much expense to get the surprise crowd pops.
I think I started getting a bit annoyed here because I felt like there were now too many people in the ring. It's Tatanka come in after Valentine, and I was looking at, obviously you can only do the Diesel eliminating and there only being one guy in the ring so many times, but I felt like there was an awful lot of guys in now.
Aye, it's went from one extreme to the other, hasn't
it? Yeah.
Great Kabuki comes out at 22. We've got everyone but Mo trying to get Mabel out and succeeding.
Yep.
Then comes Lex at 23. That's a pretty favourable Royal Rumble draw for Lex Luger.
Yep.
What's the script with Luger and being able to get a title shot? Because when he won, in inverted commas, at SummerSlam 93, that was supposed to be his only chance at the belt.
There was a story told through some of the Raws where Jack Tunney was to make a decision on whether Lex Luger would be allowed to enter the Royal Rumble. Now, if he entered, it meant that if he won, he got another title shot. So that was a decision that Jack Tunney took, I think, 3 months to make. And eventually, he seemed to put it out to a public vote, which...
Oh, shocker.
I don't want to make the decision, so I'm going to let everyone else make it for me. So yeah, it was agreed that if he was allowed to participate, which he was in the end, he would be allowed to get the title shot.
Right. I mean, I can imagine Cornette dragging that through the courts.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Lex is in. He's still doing the America gimmick. Nobody gives a shit anymore because they had confetti fall for the sky when he won on a count out.
Yeah.
It was done. It was cooked right there and then. 24 is Teneru.
Yeah.
Do you know who this guy is?
No.
No, right, okay. I've got my notes here. I love this idea of, I don't know if they've ever done it again, hired guns in a rumble to make sure that somebody doesn't make it out the other end. Love that. It's a good sort of little wrinkle of a storyline. Nobody comes out at 25.
Yeah, we are to believe that that's Bret, and he's just too hurt to take part. I've suggested in my notes, can we bring in Bruce Hart as a replacement? Because they're basically the same now.
Don't get me started.
I'm bracketing Bret with Bruce after what I've seen in the night.
So no, come on. Like bracket him with Keith, maybe.
Listen. It's all about Bret, just like it was all about Bruce.
Shit. Hey, you've given me something to contemplate there.
I've said he will definitely have his gear and be hanging around backstage.
So Bruce... Okay, let's go into this then. So this whole brother turning on brother and brother being upstaged by brother was supposed to be a storyline. It was supposed to be Bruce versus Bret.
Bruce came up with the basic idea for himself and tried to sell it to Bret to then sell to Vince. And Bret, I think, listened to this idea and thought, this is really good, but
for Owen.
It's not you. Obviously, it's not you. What sense would there be in it being you? It makes so much sense for Owen.
And Bruce just obliterates Bret in his autobiography. That is a top 3 wrestling autobiographies, if you're interested. Straight from the Heart by Bruce Hart.
He can't still think that this should have been him.
He does.
It worked so well with Owen.
do you know what's class? Is that, well, Bruce writes in his autobiography that he didn't learn until much later on, when Bret wrote in a column that he was writing in some sort of Canadian newspaper that it was not appropriate for Bruce, but much more appropriate for my younger brother, Owen. But Bruce used to ghostwrite for Bret in that same column. Which just imagine Bruce, how angry he is, standing looking at himself in his mirror with his shades on. His leather jacket.
Wonder if Bret sold it to Bruce that Vince likes the idea, but it has to be Owen. But there's no way that Bret took it to Vince with it being Bruce. It just wouldn't have.
Who is this you're talking about? He's not employed by us, is he? Oh, Bruce. A legend in his own head. It was supposedly, well, I think Vince tells us it was supposed to be Bastian Booger, but he got sick or something at 25.
I think that comes out later after Bret has made his appearance. I keep saying in my notes, can we please clear some of the guys? We don't need Mo. We don't need Greg the Hammer Valentine. We don't need Sparky Plug in here.
There's far too many. I'm sure there's about 12 guys in or something. Yeah. Rick Martel comes in. Well, there's 10 men in the ring at the moment. Far too many tired-looking guys. Bret comes limping out at 27. And Crush just grabs him and rattles his knee off the canvas. I love it.
Yeah, I like when he comes out. He's obviously selling it. And, it's... if Bret Hart, who is considered one of the best wrestlers in the world, is going in there, why the hell would Diesel not do that? It just makes so much sense for him to do it. I did have a question mark a little bit before that. We've got Lex Luger and Tatanka in the ring. At the time, they're basically the only notable baby faces just before Bret's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
The ring is full of heels. And they just start going at each other. And I'm looking at it's every man for himself. But come on, guys. There's heels there's guys you have had legitimate issues with all around you. You're just like, there's my pal. I'm just going to try and knock the fuck out of him.
They're just so noble. So much integrity. That's classic Lex Luger. That's brilliant. Fatu is 28, which is a good draw for him. Marty Jannetty comes out at 29, and the ladies are going wild. That's like the sort of pop that Jeff Hardy used to get in the 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
And Sean and Marty Jannetty go right at it immediately, which I liked. How long are we talking?
For Sean.
Since Marty dived through the barbershop window, like a year or so.
Yeah, maybe a bit less.
Right. So that's pretty fresh.
Yeah. But maybe a little bit more. I think actually it happened just before the previous Rumble. Right. I think Michaels went into that Rumble as a heel, and for me, that kind of came out of nowhere because you weren't seeing anything on TV. And I was like, oh, what's this?
Wait, SummerSlam 92, Michaels is a heel. Because it's Martel versus Michaels, and they're both heels.
Okay, it's maybe coming up 2 years then.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But the animosity is still there, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. Right, number 30, I've got a bit of fantasy booking for you, right? Number 30 is Adam Bomb. Yeah. But I was thinking, how class would it be if it was Ludwig Borger? And this whole ankle thing was a work.
A heel move. So it'd be fresh for the...
Yes, because he knows he's got 30 and he's like, I'm not jeopardising my shot.
That would have been great. Instead, we get Adam Bomb. I've got Adam Bomb. Vince proclaims he's going to win the Rumble despite having personally cancelled his push weeks ago.
Amazing.
We've had number 30, and I've got in my notes we're only just coming up to elimination 18.
Oof. Yep, I've got. Let's start getting rid of some folk, please.
Yeah.
Bam Bam was in for a good while, wasn't he? I think he came out number 15, so he's in there a good, 25 minutes or so
Yeah.
after having had a match earlier in the night. So good effort for him.
Mm-hmm.
Asshole Luger manages to eliminate him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
My notes jump straight to the final four, so if you've got anything you want to fill in between, you're welcome to.
Tatanka eliminating Bam Bam. Adam Bomb going flying over as Luger lowers the ropes. Michaels eliminating Marty Jannetty. Bret and Luger teaming up to eliminate Tenryu. And that, I think, takes us down to the four.
So final four is Michaels, Fatu, Lex Luger and Bret Hart. I could never have called who that fourth one would have been. I could have called Michaels, Luger and Bret, but I would have probably had Crush in there. He was in pretty early as well. He must have went a fair while.
Yeah, he will have done.
He was 13. But I think the way that they built him, I would have liked him to have been in the final four, because I think he has sort of elevated himself by being involved
definitely.
in what he's been involved in.
Yeah.
I like the eliminations. Don't recall seeing the eliminations for Fatu and Shawn Michaels, the way that they did it, where they both run at the guy in the corner and get hoiked over the corners.
Yeah, kind of synchronized. It was pretty good. Yeah.
And then they just go straight in. Like I thought we'd maybe have a bit of a face off.
Yeah, I wondered about maybe even a handshake or something like that, and then let's go. But nah, straight to it.
They pretty much go straight into the spot. They both go over. And they do it like surprisingly well.
Have you ever heard Bruce Pritchard speaking about this?
No.
So he's talking about, the idea and they've come up with, and it's going to be both guys going over and hitting the floor at the same time. And I think it's Bruce, it's Pat Patterson, it's Vince all in a room and being like, and apparently, I think it was Pat Patterson kept being like, what if they mess it up? And Bruce Pritchard's like, well, we trust Bret. Bret can do this. And it's like, yeah, but what if they mess it up? And what if they botch the spot? And he's like, we trust Bret. And he said, at no point did anyone say we trust Lex to be able to get this done right.
Like that, it's funny because I thought that as well. They obviously trust Bret to make sure that happens, but then in Bret's book, he says that it's Luger that is the one that executed it really well.
Yeah,
that's funny. That's it's such a big risk. Did they do it? See, when Rock and Big Show did it in 2000. Was that planned as well? Did they both went over at the same time, didn't they?
They both went over, and I don't know if it actually went the way you were supposed to, because I don't know how quickly they showed you like the replay of the feet hitting. Because did they give The Rock the win there?
I can't remember.
I think they do, and I think it's maybe on account of it's almost like Big Show's taller, so his legs are going to hit first. It's kind of like they've sort of applied that logic to it. And then there was obviously the sort of screw up one between Batista and Cena, which wasn't meant to happen.
So both guys go over. We don't get the camera angle, which I think is probably quite savvy. That we don't actually see them. But based on what they do, it looks like they did it really, really well. So one referee says that Luger won and they play his music. We should have Owen celebrating in the back somewhere. But then one of the other referees, I think it's Hebner, is saying to Finkel, no, what are you doing? Bret won. They play Bret's music. And it's at this point, I've wrote down my notes, I guarantee you this was Vince's way of trying to decide who gets the main event based on the crowd's reaction.
Yeah, and I think he would have thought Luger would have been the crowd reaction.
Do you think that's what this was?
Yeah, I do. And I think...
It sounds ridiculous.
I just think, much as, I think Bret's spoken a lot about the relationship they had for a long time. I think Vince was adamant for a long time that Luger was going to be his next guy, and it didn't really work. It hadn't really worked, but I think this was his. We have to give it another shot to see if it's going to work. And the crowd are, they're not booing Lex Luger or anything like that, but they're so with Bret. They just are, and he's won them. He's done all the work for all the years. They respect him, and he's won them, and they're just not buying Luger, I don't think, as the guy.
It's just something missing. It's just so obvious, but it's obvious in hindsight, and whether it was like that in the moment, it's hard to tell. But yeah, 100% agree. They're for Bret.
How did you feel when you saw Jack Tunney walking down? Were you thinking, well, we're going to get an immediate decision here? This is going to be perfect. I can I can sleep easy tonight because Jack Tunney's going to make a decision for us.
He looks. I love how sort of vacant he looks.
There's some brilliant acting by Howard Finkel here, where he's ready to make his announcement, and he even does the inhale before he's about to say the name, and then he shakes his head and just walks back over to Jack Tunney. That's what's going on.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of it. And then he's like, wait. I love that. That's what I got my notes. Finkel is hamming it up here. I thought Finkel would say, like, President Jack Tunney has made the decision, but he doesn't. He goes, the winner is... Does he say both men or something like that?
He says, the winner of the 1994 Royal Rumble is... And he takes a pause and he goes, the winners of the 1994 Royal Rumble are... And says both names.
What stinking booking that is, eh?
Vince says Jack Tunney made a tough decision. He made no decision.
He literally sat on the fence.
And then there's a bit that got me right at the end. I think it's maybe the last thing said on the show. Right at the end. Ted DiBiase, who's I don't find a good announcer, but he just says...
I was disappointed by that, were you? I thought it'd be good.
Yeah, but he just says, I tell you what, McMahon, I got a lot of money. Why?
Amazing. At one point he says something about being as tall as Diesel.
Yeah.
And Vince says, there's no way you're as tall as him. He goes, if I stand on my wallet. Like that as well.
Yeah, he had some moments. He's not a good storyteller as an announcer. And it felt like he felt like that guy that's backing the heel for no real reason other than because he's backing the heel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really horrible booking. Like what common sense or common sense would suggest you make them just go again. Like keep going until somebody gets eliminated.
Yeah.
Not both men win. And
now,
go on.
They kind of fall into a good scenario here because what you get is where we're going with Mania is the ability, for the sake of fairness, to have the Bret and Owen match on the card as well as the title matches, which we'll be grateful for when we watch that show.
True. Yeah, but we still could have got that, and there'd be no need for Luger to be anywhere near the main event picture. We could add Owen.
Well, you could stack the deck. You could basically say it's Owen versus Bret, and then the winner faces Yokozuna. Yeah.
You've got your title shot, Bret, and that's fine. But I deserve my shot against you after what you cost me. Yeah. You're going to have to wrestle twice that night if you want to. I don't care. Okay, we've got a decision to make because stupid WWE is wiping their arse with fivers and moving over to supposedly moving their network over to Netflix, but we don't know what is going to happen. So do we just jump to what we have been doing is watching the Raws, and the Raws have been good. There's no guarantee the Raws are going to be there though, is there? Yeah,
that would concern me. I think we need to go to Mania as our next show, but that's not to... Maybe we could watch a Raw or two before it, something like that. But I am worried after this recent announcement that we're going to get so far along and then we're just not going to be able to watch to get to any kind of conclusion from this journey.
Yeah, same. What does it say? Something like select shows plus historical pay-per-views or something like that.
Yeah, so I imagine, they'll probably put up all the WrestleManias quickly, and I imagine maybe the big four will go on quickly, but it's hard to guarantee much else from
Yeah.
the early stages anyway.
Really looking forward to some of these like early in your houses pay-per-views I wouldn't have seen, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, if they want to just not put up the King of the Ring that Mabel wins, that's all right. We're all right with that. But aye, let's just go to let's just do what we did for this one then. For our next one, we'll do Go Home Raw and Mania 10.
Yeah.
And take it from there.
Yeah, that's fine.
We've never done Mania 10. We've done like top 5 WrestleManias of the 80s and 90s
I think that's
or something.
Right. We've never specifically gone through Mania 10.
Yes.
It's a good one.
Is it one of the best? Has to be.
I think for me, yeah. I mean, I would say it's got 2 of the best matches on it, so it must be one of the best Manias.
You're going to be like, are you going to have like all your Slammy awards and be eating nuggets whilst we watch Owen versus Bret?
I am feeling a lot of sympathy for him right now. So, yeah, I'm not ruling out going full Owen. We'll see.
Okay. I think that I will quite easily be swayed back to Team Bret, but I am disappointed by his behaviour.
Yeah.
Justin going for the sharpshooter.
Yeah.
Really not good, Bret.
No.
At all.
Nah.
But well done.
He's let some of his fans down.
He has. He has. Well, that was a good show, was it?
Yeah. It was.
The tag match was decent. The title match was good. Same.
Yeah. And good stories going through it.
And hopefully, by the time we get to Mania 10, IRS has got, he's got his vengeance on. They could make it a triple threat, that ladder match. Imagine what he would have added to that match with his amateur background. His 3-point stance. What's his name in WCW again? You said it before.
Oh.
It's like a ridiculous name.
Oh, I can't remember.
I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah.
Mike Rotunda. He was Mike Rotunda in WCW, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like back when we were watching in '89 or whatever.
It was something else financial. He had another.
What was that? What was it? Oh, was it Mike Wall Street, Mr. Wall Street, Michael Wall Street? That's what it was.
Is the VK? Is that a bit Vincent Kennedy?
Has to be. Has to be.
Yeah, I think I was remembering Michael Wall Street. I think.
It says it. That's what it says here on Wikipedia. Returned to WCW in September 1995. He was introduced as Michael Wall Street, but by the next episode, he was known as VK Wall Street, an allusion to Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yeah.
It's like, WCW
all
over.
As good as the Voodoo Kin Mafia right there.
Wasn't his singlet like dollar bills or something like that?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Horrible. Classic case of like somebody with good athletic prowess, but they just couldn't find something to fit him properly, could they?
I enjoyed him in Money Inc. I think you were the same. That felt right.
He had a good figure.
He did.
I don't mean like to look at. I mean to play with. Yeah. Yep. It is what it is. That is what it sounds like. Right, 2 weeks' time, WrestleMania 10. It's going to be a beauty. That ladder match, that earthquake squash. Who does earthquake squash again? Is it IRS? Oh, I don't know.
It's Adam.
Yokozuna. Yeah. Owen coming out at the end, looking at Bret. Oh,
brilliant.
Absolute cinema. Right.
Nice.
Take it easy and we'll speak again soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.